Okay, so this is like my third take. I keep messing up. This is just part three of Peru. Uh, I follow the biblical lineages and geography of what I think uh, the three sons of Noah traveled through. All right, so review from a previous videos. I think the Temple of David is Coricancha in Peru. Uh, it's considered the Golden Temple. Um, so on the bottom there, I highlighted a section of Wikipedia. According to the experiments, blah blah blah. One can hear musical notes (DAG) when the holes are struck with an instrument. So if you know anything about the Bible, King David was a musician. It would make sense if uh, he made his temple into a musical instrument. Uh, and then the picture to the right, Sacsayhuaman. I think that's the fortress of David. So that's just a fortress on the outskirts of the city of Cusco. It's just a huge fortress, really. Um, the picture to the left where it says mysterious megalithic site, it's just a screenshot from YouTube. They don't know, so people don't know what that is. They still don't know. I personally think it's the stepstone structure of David from the Bible. The stepstone structure they currently think they found in the Middle East is like very, very small and it's like somebody's house. So I don't think the one they found is, I think this is more likely. And the Huaylilas, Peru. I think it's Golgotha, the place of the skull. So I think this is where Jesus was crucified. So from what I understand, there is a road where people were walking and can see Jesus be crucified. There was a tomb, I think, and then there was a garden, and there was a garden, according to the Bible. So I think I found the road. It's called the Andean Baroque Route. It crosses through all these areas from Cusco, which I think is Jerusalem, through this place, and so on and so forth to other sites. They found a bunch of skulls in this same place, elongated skulls. That's a picture right there, and I think it's in a museum in that place. Also, this church, they built a church on top of this place. Um, it's built on top of a waka, and a waka is just like a sacred place. It could be sacred anything, sacred anything, but in this case, it's a sacred place. They think it's a burial ground of some sort, and then the Spanish built a church on top of this place. And this church is it's considered like the Sistine Chapel of the Americas. So it's like a really fancy church, world renowned. I couldn't find the garden, but I'm sure there's a garden somewhere there. I think that's the easiest thing to find because the church always has a garden. Um, so a lineage of Cain. So I think if you see my previous video, I think Brazil, Venezuela region is Eden. And in the Bible, Cain was after he killed his brother Abel, he was exiled east of Eden, so across the Atlantic, um, to the land of Nod. Um, so if you cross the Atlantic from Brazil, you there's a place called Morocco, and Morocco means Morocco used to be called Amuriacus. Amuriacus. So I highlighted Amu because that's like from my first video. Amu means such and such. Um, and this Amuriacus is in a language called Amazigh or Berber, and all it means is land of God. So I posted a picture there. I personally don't think it means land of God. I think it means land of Nod. Um, I think the Muslims kind of switch history a little. and I'm sure they kind of just switched that a little. That's what I think. Lineage of Seth. So lineage of Seth. So Cain had two brothers, Abel and Seth. Abel he killed, so there's no lineage, and Seth is the other brother. And Seth. So I found this picture on that picture on the left, the one that's written on. I found that picture on Google, and I'm not the only person who kind of sees the weird, like, intermingling of the lineages. So there's some sort of like incest, I guess. But regardless, yeah. So Enoch, Lamech. So there's some weird thing going on. But regardless, Noah comes from the lineage of Seth, and after Noah is born, God basically restarts the world after a flood. So he floods the world, and then Noah and his family survive the flood. Okay, so the lineage of Japheth. So Japheth is one of the three sons. So Noah had three sons. He had Ham, Shem, and Japheth. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, Japheth or Japheth, or I don't know. Japheth. Regardless, Japheth. Um, so the Bible says that the lineage of Japheth were seafaring and maritime peoples. And if you start from Peru, which I think is the promised land, um, he kind of takes the route like along the coasts of the Americas. So from Peru along the coast of Mexico and the Pacific side, basically, of the Americas. And he kind of does the same thing. He crossed the aisle. So these people, according to the Bible, they went to the islands. So they went to the islands, and they think it's like in the Mediterranean, but I don't think that makes sense personally, because it just doesn't make sense. Um, so Japheth had multiple sons: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, and then etc. etc. His lineage is right this way or this way. I posted a picture of the lineage and the routes that I believe they went in red. I think they actually went all the way up to like Siberia, Russia, Eskimos, but I think the most concrete evidence is in Indonesia. Okay, so Javan, so he had a son called Javan, and Javan, I think he landed in Java, Indonesia. There's like an ancient place called Ganong Padang. I don't know if I said that right. Ganong Padang, and it's like some sort of temple, step terraced structure, and I think there was like something there. I'm sure it's like 20,000 years old, some sort. Madai. So he had also another son, Madai, and there's a place. So in Micronesia, there's a state, and in this state, I posted a picture here. I think it's right there on top of me. It's called Marolinim, Non-Modal, Hawaii, Savai. So non-modal, it's right here in this edge of the map, is that temple right next to me this way. So there's like structure there, temple structure. Remains. They don't know what the remains are, but I'm sure this is where these sea people, were living. Um, so okay, so there's I think he had a grandson. I don't know if it was a son or grandson. I need to look at the picture. But Sitchem or Kitchem, depends on how you say it. He I'm sure he landed here in Pompeii, Micronesia, because there's a state there called City or Kiti, depending on how you say it. And this whole place, Pompeii, from what I understand, there's no Roman influence. Like the Romans weren't here. So I think the Romans come from this place, Micronesia. Um, Gomer, that's another son, I think. Goleta, California. It's like super ancient. It's on the Pacific side of the United States. So the Pacific side of the United States is like really, really ancient. I think a place in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, is like has a lot of like archaeological evidence of people being there. Dubai, so Tibet and Nepal. So these countries, they don't even know why they're called Tibet or Nepal. I don't know. You can look it up. Nobody knows what they call it, why they call themselves that. Magog, I think that's a son or a grandson of Noah. Uh, no, that's of Japhet. I mean, excuse me. So there's Macau, China, Moscow, Russia, Moscow, Poland, Magong, Taiwan. I think it's all the same person. Tiras, Thailand, Solomon Island. So the Solomon Islands were in Pacific. They are in the Pacific, and the reason they're called Solomon Islands is because after the Spanish left, the Spanish explorer Mandana, he was in Peru and he left and he landed in an island. And in this island, he thought it was the island of Ophir from the Bible. So I guess he called it Solomon Islands, and it stuck. Latest Malaysia, Maldives. I don't think I finished this slide, so I don't know where I was going with that. But I think this is concrete evidence personally, but I don't know. Before I move, I can't switch slides, so I need to make sure I can't go back and forth. So I need to make sure. Okay. This is just continue. So there's a place called Aomori, Japan, and it's like 5,000 plus years old. And in this place, there's a place called Hirai Shingo. Supposedly Jesus is buried there in this place. I don't believe it, but maybe it's an apostle. I think I don't know. Maybe an apostle is buried there. Um, okay, so Sigiria, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sigiria in Sri Lanka. So there's a picture above me here. That's a real picture from what I understand. I got it from Google, and it's very Machu Picchu style. So it would make sense that it's from a similar people. Um, I posted here this picture of the earliest civilizations of China, and it's all like almost all of them are on the Pacific coast, southeastern coast of the Pacific. It would make sense that they all land there. Xinjiang, China. So Xinjiang is, I think it's like one of the green dots in that map. I don't know exactly. I think it's on the southeastern coast of China, and it's like super, super Christian. Um, and this same place is used to have a kingdom. So this, so back in like 3000 BC, there was a kingdom that ran this same place, and this kingdom was called the Yue Guo, Yeguo, Yahweh, Yoguo, Ba Yue, the kingdom of Yue Guo. And Vietnam, to this day, Vietnam means south of Yue. So it would make sense that they spread the gospel in this route. Capacha culture in western Mexico. So on the Pacific side of Mexico, there's a culture called Capacha, and it's like really ancient. And then I posted a picture here of Wikipedia. So basically says there's similarities between Western Mexico and South America. Um, so it just says I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but it basically says that it has the same culture as the Andes. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. You can pause it if you want to read it all. But all right. So the lineage of Ham. So the lineage of Ham. Um. So that's the lineage. This is the map that I think they went through. So they go from Peru south to Chile and Argentina, Uruguay, and this place. I think these people were like really good seafarers. So they were really good with boats and stuff. Because they ended up landing in Egypt on Eastern Africa, and I think they actually went this route too through Uruguay to through the Atlantic. Um, let's see if I need to say anything else. All right, so the Lemba people. So I posted a picture here of Lemba East. So they're East Africans. So I think it's the middle picture right here. So the middle picture is I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but it says so the legend of these people say that they came from a very remote place on the other side of the sea. So this is the origin according to these people. A terrible storm. So they came by boat from very, very far away. This is from like thousands of years ago. They also found mummies with traces of nicotine and cocaine. So this is the picture right above me. I'm covering it. I shouldn't have. I should have taken out my face. Um, they found so these mummies they found with cocaine and nicotine, which is native to the Americas. Nicotine and cocaine. Um, Monteverde, Chile. That's also an ancient place. I think that's kind of where the Egyptians probably landed, the original Egyptians. So after they left Canaan, which is Peru, they went down south to Monteverde, Chile. And then Chile is kind of like where the Egyptians kind of originated from. The Amorites, and so the Amorites, they were a tribe in the Middle East back in like Egyptian, African, Egyptian times. So during the Egyptians in Africa, they were in Africa, but there was a tribe called the Amorites around this time period, and they called them the Amaru, which kind of correlates with everything that I'm saying. Um, so the Eskimos of the Atlantic. So Tassleck, Greenland. So in Greenland, there's a city called Tassleck, and it used to be called Ammassalik. I don't know, I'm saying that right. Amma. Uh, and I highlighted in yellow of genetics. So the first ancient human to have a genome sequence, that's the picture on the right, was from a culture called the Sakak. I don't know. And this same culture, the genetics says that they were between 3000 BC and 1900 BC. And I highlighted it. It says the evidence suggested that the ancestors of the Sakak entered North America from Siberia through a distinct migration about 4000 BC. And they subsequently remained largely genetically isolated from other North American populations. So that's the main theory right now, that they crossed from Russia and they just avoided everyone, and they avoided everyone really. They they they, they left genetically. they remained largely genetically isolated, so they didn't speak to anyone. But I think that they went from the Atlantic. That's how they avoided everyone, because they went by water. The Minuane. Okay, so there's a tribe called the Minuane of Uruguay. The Minuane wind. So there's a saying called the Minuane wind, and it's just a cold wind. I'm not sure where I was going with that. I don't know where I was going with that. But the Minuans, I think I kind of went over this in previous videos. The Minuans were dominant seafarers. So if they're dominant seafarers and they're in the Mediterranean too, if they're as dominant as they say, it wouldn't be shocking if they came from Uruguay all the way through the Atlantic and landed in the Mediterranean. So that's just a weird theory there, but fringe theory. The lineage of Shem. So the lineage of Shem is. So I posted a picture of the lineage there. They stayed. So according to the Bible, they stayed in that region, in the Promised Land. So I think Israel is Peru. Aram is where the Aramaic and all the Ara tribes are from. Venezuela. I don't know where Venezuela, Brazil, Ara tribes, wherever they're located. The kingdom of Ur is Uruguay. That's nobody knows why they call themselves Uruguay or Paraguay, but that's my theory. Uruguay comes from the kingdom of Ur. And Paras. So Persia means in Hebrew it's called Paras, which is like the ancient language Hebrew. Paras. It just makes sense. Paraguay. I don't know. Um, mm, do I need to say anything else for you? No. This is just another fringe hot take, I guess you could say. The South Atlantic geomagnetic anomaly. So basically, in the world, there's a hole in the geomagnetic field. So in the whole field of magnetism, there's a huge hole in South America. So it wouldn't. That's where I say, and it's basically pointing in Bolivia. That's kind of where I think life originated, really, and like the border of Peru and Bolivia, or maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it moved. Maybe it was over Brazil. Maybe I don't know where the hole is centered, but it would make sense. This is where life originated, or main civilization, modern civilization. Something cosmic happened, basically. Probably, I don't know, God, whatever you want to call it. I think it's God, but maybe it was cosmic. Maybe it was like a comet, an asteroid, etc. All right.